architect. But the idea that we want to do is we want to bridge the gap from plan to DITA implementation. Okay, we really want to make sure that all the neat ideas we have when we think about what we hope to get out of our DITA project we can really realize, and we think that doing information architecture is key to realizing that. And that may include how focused or minimal is your content. Are you able to support all delivery channels you want to today, and those that might appear a year or two from now? How consistent is the output? Okay, we also want the total cost for content to be as low as possible. And that when we think about total cost, we think about the total life cycle. So that's creating content, maintaining content, publishing to a variety of formats, and of course, minimal translation costs. And we really think that if we do that successfully, we think about it successfully, we're going to have in information architecture, we're going to have the best possible output. I did skip, the quick background about Suite Solutions, and what Suite Solutions, of course, does is we like to think about it as getting it right the first time. Okay, so we've done lots of projects, lots of information architecture projects, and we've made lots of mistakes, and and we've kind of like to share the benefit of those mistakes that we've made and what we've learned from it, and some of that we'll do tonight. And we've done this across a range of industries. It's been high tech, it's been biotechnology, it's been a whole list of things, and we really have a lot of experience, and we'd love to share it. So let's go ahead and let's get started doing that today. Okay, so in information architecture, which is one of those, it's one of those terms in DITA, I think, that are just terrible, right? It's really very difficult, I think, to explain to somebody else who's not in our world what information architecture is, and even if somebody who is. So I'm just giving a few examples, and then we're going to delve in. But information architecture says, what topic types should we be using? What specializations might we need, if any? What elements should we be using to be semantically correct? What elements are we going to be able to use to get the fastest possible presentation, the fastest preparation, the lowest maintenance cost, the best presentation? How is some of this going to affect reuse? How is this going to help us if we're concerned about delivering a minimalist content, give us need-to-know content? And always, what's going to be the implication on writer productivity? And of course, what's going to be the effect on translation? So we're going to cover a few cases today, okay? And we tried to pick a few different ones that would speak to different people, if they have hardware or software, or or fish tanks in one case. But we'd like to see if we have content that we need to support the ISO labeling requirements, how we're going to do that. We want to think about documenting UI, which is probably a pretty common application. We want to think about providing troubleshooting information. We want to think about getting links to your external website, and we'll talk more about why you'd want to do that and what benefits or costs that could carry. And of course, we want to think about reducing costs through automation, which would be kind of an extra bonus of translation costs and certainly maintenance costs. So let's get started. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I have I'm going to make sure I have it's open for me with the webinar. Okay, and I'm going to try one more time to turn off my webcam because I think it's taking too much. Here we go. Okay, so if we go ahead and get started now. Okay, whoops, sorry about that. Okay, and we want to look at our ISO labeling requirements. Okay, so the ISO labeling requirements are things that you see when you buy, I don't know, a laser printer, and it tells you all kinds of dangers and warnings and cautions. Okay, and these are rules that people put in, and they follow these standards, or a few different standards. But basically, it tells them what colors they have, what icons they need to use, what kind of content they have to write. Okay, and we want to do this in DITA. Okay, so basically we kind of divided it here into three different parts. There's a type. Is it a danger, a warning, or a caution? Okay, there's an icon that illustrates what might happen, right? In this case, your hands might get crushed, or here you might not be able to breathe. Okay, and then of course there's the body, and the body is telling you how to avoid it, maybe giving you some text details of what might happen. Okay, and in order to go ahead and do this and implement this in DITA, we really need to think about how to do the markup. So I want to ask people a question before we get too far into this. Okay, and I want to ask you guys, how many of you guys have actually used a particular kind of task topic in DITA called the machine industry task topic? Okay, so if you guys are able to vote, that would be great. I'd appreciate it if you could vote, you know, any way you like. Okay, we're getting up at 70% voter rates. This is going to sound like North Korea soon. Okay, and with 75% of the audience voting here so far, we've nobody who's intimately familiar with this. Okay, so this is a good chance to explore it, because it's one of the hidden treasures in DITA. It's amazingly useful, and we're going to look at it a little bit today. And that's going to be part of our information architecture, is finding out what elements are out there that we can use to do stuff that's really powerful, and may even be within the DITA standards without creating specializations. Okay, so we're up to 85% voting now, and there's nobody who's really used it intimately, and 5% have used it once or twice. Okay, so I'm just going to close this poll. Okay, and I'd like to go on and see a little bit more detail about this. Okay, but we need to do this markup, and the markup has to be able to support the outputs, right? The output needs to know what color to do it, needs to know what icon to put in. Okay, okay, and it needs to know what type. Is it a danger, warning, caution, notice? There's actually a few other types too. Okay, so I'm just gonna get that here. Sorry. Okay, and I'm gonna switch over to XMetal so we can see the markup here. Okay, and we'll see something called the okay, we're seeing in XMetal a special tag called hazard statement, which is only available in the machine industry topic type, machine industry task topic type. Okay, and in there you can use a hazard statement, and the hazard statement gives you a chance to put in a message panel, which is type of hazard. Okay, so this type of hazard, say, is mortal danger or disability. Consequence, you can break your bones or worse. How to avoid. Okay, by the way, you see this is position a ladder at the base. We're climbing up the roof, right? So secure yourself at all times to your neighbor's treehouse using a bungee cord. Okay, these instructions, by the way, are not ISO approved, and you should not try them at home. So I have this, but I still don't have a good way of expressing the ISO standard. Remember, the ISO standard here was, is it a danger, warning, or caution? And I need to put a special icon in. So I can put this in text, but I want to get the colors, and I want to get the colors and the text, danger, warning, caution. Each one is a different color, and I want to get this icon in. How am I going to do it? Okay, so again, I'm going to go back to XMetal, and I'm going to, okay, and just like this, I don't have a way out of the box, but without specialization, we can. This is one way to do it. We can use the attributes on a statement. Okay, so this is a hazard statement. Okay, and we've made a convention for this particular case that we're going to use other type, and other type can have a legal value of danger, warning, or caution. and you can use type. And type, I think, can have one of 47 legal values that the ISO standard defines, or at least in this particular implementation that were interesting. So that was corrosion, electrical, poison gas, I don't know, crushing hazards. Okay, and so all we did is when we thought about the need that we need to present, we want to present ISO standard outputs. So what markup did we do? Well, we said we're going to need to use the hazard statement element, which is only available in machine industry task topic types. Okay, and we're going to need to require specification of other type and type. Okay, and that was a pretty simple way of saying we can do something that's amazingly complicated, because with all the combinations of types or other type and types, it comes out to well over 200 different possible combinations for the minimal ISO set. Okay, it's a huge number of complications. Okay, and here the markup is really easy. Okay, okay. So again, hazard statement. The implication of using hazard statement, the architecture implementations that we want to use, at least when we need these ISO types, we need to be using the machine industry task topic. Okay, we want to use the type of hazard, consequence, and how to avoid, and we want to use the attributes to achieve the results. Okay, so so we have these two dimensions, and the sample markup, which if you guys like to look at code, which I think is useful, is other type, and we can meet any of these combinations. Okay, so again, this would be a sample markup, type of hazard, roof can collapse, you can be crushed, how to avoid. Okay, and that's a really, really cool way with no specialization of doing something that's really complicated. Okay, I wanted to show another example. Okay, and this is something that we see very commonly, where we need to describe a user interface. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and show this again in Oxygen. Okay, so we can see this. Okay, and I've done the same step basically in two ways. One is something that we frequently see. So the writer has done click on calendar, and then choose new appointment. Okay, is that semantically correct or not? If we can see by a raise of hands. Okay. Oops. Okay. But this is really bad. Okay, in terms of things that are bad, so if murder or robbery or or slander is bad in human relations, this is bad in the DITA context. Okay, it's not semantically correct markup. Okay, the semantically correct markup here would be to define, to put each item you have to click in a UI control element. So here we have one UI control element for calendar and one UI control element for new appointment. And then we wrap both of those elements in the menu cascade element. Okay, so now the presentation, which if we look at this, let's look at this in the text. Okay, so there's UI control calendar, there's UI control new appointment. Again, when we get kind of a preview here in the author mode, it looks like somebody has typed in the greater than symbol, but nobody's typed it in. That's the cascading style sheet presenting it. Okay, and when this gets presented in output, we can decide, or you can decide that whenever I have a UI control, I'd like it to appear in magenta font, and be glow in the dark somehow. Okay, or I'd like to be raised lettering if I'm printing it, like Braille or something. Okay, but over here the machine doesn't know this UI control. Here it knows it's UI control, and when we do a menu cascade, we're telling the reader and we're telling the machine that this is a series of UI controls. Okay, okay, and that's the kind of very basic information architecture. It's part of the DITA standard, and that often when we think about when we're going from a non-DITA implementation or from a less sophisticated DITA implementation to a more powerful, a more robust DITA implementation, we want to review the content and say, well, what kind of markup is needed? So in the first case, when we looked at the hazard statement element, we needed to go into that element and think about how we use the type attribute and the other type attribute. Okay, so that required thinking a little bit out of the box, and maybe we'll do some specialization of the DTD to or some listing of what attributes are available so that nobody has to type it in. Here, there's no specialization, there's no change, but it's going to be training the writers and making sure writers know that bold we don't use, UI control we use. When there's a series of UI controls, we use menu cascade. Okay. Okay. In terms of the benefits that semantic markup can confer, I'll just give one really quick benefit. Imagine I have a case. Imagine I have a case where following this example, say. Whoops. Where I have a UI element called new appointment. Okay, and somebody decided in marketing that instead of it being called a new appointment, it's supposed to be called a new session. Okay, so I'm not sure if I want to make a global search and replace in all my content for session, for change appointment to session. Okay, but for sure, there's no more UI element called a new appointment. There's a UI appointment called a new session. So once it's in a UI control, I can do a global search and replace. Okay, we're using whatever tool I'm using. Okay, and I can say I want to search within an element. Okay, within the element UI control, and I only want to replace appointment with session within that element. Okay, and that's a really simple example of that's a really simple example of a benefit. Okay, another benefit may be is that all UI controls may be stored in a library. Okay, and then when I do translation, it's much easier to do. Okay, that'll be another issue, and we'll see another example of that soon in a different context. Okay, probably the biggest example we're going to have today is showing troubleshooting. Okay, and I think I want to ask a question of you guys about that too. Whoops. Okay. Well, I meant to ask you guys also about launching, about the hazard statement elements. I'm just going to ask that really quickly before I forget, because we would like to get feedback on that. So if you guys would give feedback on the hazard statement element, that would be great. Okay. And I think I need to close that. Okay, so basically nobody has used the hazard statement element in our population here so far. And again, it's not surprising because again, the machine industry task topic is relatively new in DITA. DITA's terms a year or two since DITA 1.2. But also it's really one of the hidden treasures. And we'll show some more examples today of what you can do in the machine industry task topic. And that's a good example of what you could do in information architecture without necessarily specializing. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to a specific troubleshooting, and I'm gonna give you an example, which is arbitrary, because we've done, and you could probably imagine yourself different troubleshooting scenarios that you've been involved with. Okay, okay, but in this case, an observation, okay, or a symptom, you can call it whatever else you like, or an issue or a problem, is treated independently. We simplified. So for example, I may really have a case where, say the patient has fever and has an upset stomach. But I'm not gonna say what to do when they have a fever and an upset stomach. I'm gonna say one problem. So here are the observations: the car won't start. Okay, and our rule is that for the content to be valid, for the troubleshooting to be valid, we want to set a rule that if I give an observation, I have to assign at least one cause. Okay, so these are some causes that I might assign: no fuel in the car, battery dead, the code, the key, the little keypad that you press to activate the car wasn't entered, or maybe it's really sophisticated and it's a rental car and it's and after a month that code expires. Okay. So I have an observation, and have at least one cause. Okay, if I say at least one cause, it means if I say an observation and I don't give a cause, it won't be valid. It's not really useful troubleshooting. Okay, if I don't have a cause. Okay, and then I say each cause has one or more suggested actions. Okay, so if I say a possible cause is there's no fuel in the car, well, possible possible actions may be put gas in the car, or if it's an electric car, I have to connect it to a charger. Okay, I probably wouldn't assign to no fuel in the car that I have to type in the code. Okay, and I certainly wouldn't say for battery dead any of these examples. So we want to link observations to causes, and each cause might have one or more actions. Okay, now you guys can think of other possibilities. I mean, it's not clear to me that in all troubleshooting scenarios you want to talk about causes. You may just want to say, here's a symptom, and here's an action. Okay, the example we gave here was observation. So the question is, how are we going to do this in DITA? Okay, and one possible way to think about it is put the troubleshooting content in a table or a definition list. I didn't make a poll for this, but I'm willing to bet that a table would.
Katriel?
Yes.
People can't see your screen. Your screen has disappeared.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Great. It's back.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Let me just go back on this and make sure this is important. Okay. So again, we had observations, causes, and actions. In the scenario that we imagined, each observation must have, according to our rules, at least one cause, and each cause must have at least one suggested action. Okay. So in terms of going ahead and putting this in, the most common phenomena that we see here at Sweet Solutions is somebody says, I'm going to make a table. Okay, and you make a table for this because if you're working in FrameMaker or Word, you make a table. Okay, you're used to making tables. Okay, and I want to think together with you all of that. If that would be sufficient, that would be good. Okay, and I guess my answer, I'm kind of cheating here, but my answer is, if I do that, I'm really limiting myself. Okay, because if we go back to our previous screen, okay, if I go ahead and I say that, well, I'm having a table, then semantically, I don't really understand that this observation, right, car won't start, is related to no fuel in the car, and no fuel in the car is related to put gas in the car, right? That would have columns and I would have rows, and there'd be no way for the machine to understand, for the machine to have intelligence, and say that if the battery is dead, then I need to connect to a charger, okay, or replace the battery. Okay, if the code isn't working, then I need to make sure I'm typing in the correct code or see if it's expired. Okay, okay, and so to be semantically correct, I can't use a table. Okay, a table is an easy way out. Okay, and a table, I'm not saying never use tables, but if we want to say, well, I'd like to have this, say, appear on an iPad or a smartphone and have it collapse and expand so that it's easier to read if it's a complicated troubleshooting procedure, I can't, because I really want to understand what to collapse and what to expand. I want to understand what's related to what. But if somebody picks a cause, no fuel in the car, then I can hide everything else then and just show, put gas in the car, okay? And I can do really, really cool stuff on the output that I can't do if I'm not semantically correct. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show an example of how this might be marked up. Okay. Okay, and I'm sorry. Before I show that, I should answer this question. What would be the considerations for deciding if that was sufficient? Okay, and I think the answer would be is that if I say, for as long as this content lives, I don't need to present it on a smartphone. I don't need to present it on an iPad. I don't want to make it friendlier to people. I don't want to make it easier to read. I don't want to be able to validate it and check, automatically. Am I giving a a remedy for each possible cause and a cause for each possible symptom. Okay, and if I want to be really loose, I don't need good outputs, a table is fine. But if we want it to be consistently presented, if we want to make sure we're always making clear the kind of the flow from symptom diagnosis to prognosis to treatment to action that needs to be taken, we need to have semantic markup, and that doesn't come in a table. Okay, so I'm giving you an example of something that we've done. Okay, and in this case, we made a decision that we wanted to have a special troubleshooting topic type. So just like you would have, say, concept or reference or task, you would have a troubleshooting topic type, and we'll see soon where that comes from. Okay, but if we look at the elements here, we've said it has to have a title, which would be the observation. You could have an observation, which you could put in some more details. This would be optional. Okay, and then you would have a cause. Okay, so you could have one or more causes. Okay, so in this case, our observation is that a fish is swimming sideways. Okay, okay, I'm giving a cause that the water temperature is too high. Okay, and I'm giving an action for that. What to do? I want to reduce the water temperature. Okay, maybe there's another cause, too much chlorine in the water. And there I have two possible remedies. I could put in an anti-chlorine tablet, or I could just change the water. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So in this case, we've made an entire topic. Okay. And in that topic, we're using elements that you don't see anywhere in the DITA spec. Okay. Okay. But these are elements these are elements that were very carefully thought out to deliver the very specific requirements that we have in this case for troubleshooting. Okay, they might not service a different case for troubleshooting, but for this case, they work really, really well, and they're really, really simple to use for the writer. Okay, so you guys may have guessed where this was specialized from, but there's a really useful element in the DITA standard called DL, definition list. Okay, definition list, we've changed it to TL. Definition list has a DL entry. We've just changed it to TL entry. Okay, and we did a few more, but the idea is that we've based it on an existing element. That's an important, when we think about architecture, we want to say when we want to get a benefit, when we want to control the formatting so the semantic markup is really, really, really clear, where can we base it on? Because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Okay, this was a case with specialization. But even when we specialize, we want to specialize as little as possible. We want to stick as close as possible. You kind of want to use the party line as much as possible. That's going to give us the lowest long-term maintenance costs for our DITA specializations. Okay. Would anybody, if people want to ask later about the benefits, about some more benefits or possibly some drawbacks, or to give ideas for how else this might have been done, that would be great. Okay. Okay. I'd like to give another example now. Okay. And that's a case where we want to reduce costs through automation, and I'm giving a very specific use case. Okay. But our goal here is that our content refers to other publications. So I have some complicated instructions, and in these instructions I refer to other publications, an API guide, the periodic maintenance instructions, site prep guide, maybe even a publication by a different vendor. Okay, but I want to refer to these. Okay, and I want to make sure that as these names change from time to time, I don't have a translation hit. I don't have a maintenance hit, because if those names change, okay, I'm gonna have to update it. That costs my writers or editors time and money, and it's going to make changes in the content. I'm going to have a translation hit as well. Okay, we have a special case here where I'm assuming that in our documentation we need a list of publications that you need. Okay, which is not an uncommon kind of element that people expect in certain kinds of heavy-duty hardware documentation. Okay, so in terms of what kind of markup would you use, I'm going to show you guys a trick. This is part of our introduction today to the machine industry topic type. Whoops, sorry. I meant to go to oxygen. Okay. Okay, I'm in Oxygen, and I'm using the machine industry task topic. The machine industry task topic has a special element called prereqs, okay, which is different than what I think we're all used to. In a regular topic, okay, you could have in a regular topic, task topic, you can have prerequisites. But prerequisites are kind of like unformed, okay? Inside prerequisites, you can put all kinds of stuff, okay? But not in a very structured way. Inside a machine industry topic, you can put all kinds of stuff. For example, I need required personnel, okay? So to do this, I need I need a big, strong person. I don't know, big, strong person who is not afraid of getting greasy. I don't know. Okay. But I also need a very flexible person. It is silly, but you know who can crawl into the device. Okay. But what I've done here, if I was doing this in a regular prerequisite element in a standard task topic, I could say, well, there's prerequisites as human beings that I need, and maybe there's some publications I need to access, but I wouldn't have any semantic way of saying this is personnel and this is content. This is a publication. Okay, and we'll see soon what the benefits of distinguishing that are. Okay, but in this case, in order to gear up for the installation process, you need access to a whole bunch of publications, including the site prep requirements, the electrical requirements, and the software requirements, which are all unique publications. Okay. Let's take a look in the. Okay. Okay. So I think I've answered the question of what markup would I use in a standard task topic. I don't have a good markup. Okay. I could put in, you know, something. But I have no way of saying this is a publication. It just doesn't exist if I'm not in a machine industry task topic. If I'm not in the machine industry task topic, in the prereqs, I have no way of saying this is a publication that I need. So I want to use that element, okay? But I want that element to be populated automatically. Okay, so how are we going to do it? Okay. We want any element that represents a document that we need to appear under our required content, and we want to automatically link to it. Okay. So one way, and I'm not going to say this way here, but one way I could do this. Okay, in Oxygen. Where do I get Oxygen? Sorry. Okay, in Oxygen, I can just go and I'm gonna put this, I'll put it in a. Sorry, I just want in context. I just want to do it so it's free text. Okay, I'm gonna do it in context, and I'm gonna say I need Microsoft or the Red Hat Linux install guide. Okay. Now, it's theoretically possible for me to make a dictionary somewhere that the publishing scripts will look for strings that match, and they're going to parse through all my content. So, oops, Red Hat Linux install guide. Okay. And somewhere I have a dictionary content of where this is, and then I'm going to make a link and render an output as a link to http linux.com or something. Okay, but I don't want it. I don't want to have publishing scripts looking through all my content, trying to parse, making guesses. It could be very time-consuming. There's a lot of content, and it could be very error-prone, and it could result in all kinds of other funny and unexpected consequences in the output. Okay, so instead, what I want to do is say, whenever I refer, whoops, whenever I refer to an element, whenever I refer to a publication in the output, I always want to wrap it in a specialized element. In this case, I pick SKU, okay, which was specialized from the PH, the phrase element, a very standard, okay, and it's not really doing anything except I'm saying whenever it's SKU, it's SKU, it's going to be looking for, it's going to be treating it as another publication. This is a publication somewhere in my library of publications. Okay, and then I have a few items. First of all, when I refer to the publication in my content, anywhere in the content, okay, I'm going to use a KeyRef. So if that publication name changes, and if we follow this example here, let's say, okay, instead of calling it periodic maintenance instructions, somebody decides to change it and calls it maintenance instructions you need to do every month. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to have no translation hit and no maintenance hit because it's all on the KeyRef. Okay, but I'm also not going to have a maintenance hit to update a link when this element gets inserted, because I'm going to scan all of my content, okay, in this publication or this DITA map or this book map or the submap, and I'm going to say, whoops, required content. I have it at SKU. I'm going to put that in, and then based on what I have in the KeyRef, I may be able to automatically put in the output link. Okay. In this case, by the way, the 178PZ for this client was the catalog number, right? Their real SKU number, and then they had an easy syntax with the output publishing scripts take, which said, whenever I want to link to a publication on their extranet, on their public website, it goes to say acme.com/publication/178pz or something. Okay, so I have a really easy way of handling when the name of a publication changes. I no longer have to manually populate this element, which is a real unpleasant thing to do for those of you who've done it or can imagine doing it. Can we get that back? Okay, to put in this is really hard because I have to think about any time I mention something or I don't, I want to put it in maybe, and if I don't mention it ever in the document, why do I want to put it in? So this can become a real productivity drag, and we want to avoid that productivity drag if we can. Okay, whoops. Okay, okay, and so all around it's win-win for the writers, it's win-win for the clients in terms of the content they get, and it's a big savings in maintenance and translation costs. Okay, I wanted to give, and I think this is our last example for today. Okay, I just wanted to go ahead and give an example. I wanted to go ahead and give an example of an opportunity to make sales from the site. Okay, so I think this particular example is for a company that's in the biotechnology business, and they also sell consumables. Okay, so I want to make sure that when I'm describing a procedure, and that procedure meant in, say, litmus paper, okay, there's an opportunity to buy litmus paper or test tubes or toner or whatever might be purchased from the website. Okay, and we want to be able to automate this. We don't want to have the writer to make those links, hard code those links. If I hard code the links in, it's going to be really bad news because those links are going to change from time to time. Okay, so first of all, I need to identify a potential markup opportunity. Okay, and the example that we're going to use here is the same example we used before, SKU. Okay, and again, it's a really simple specialization. It's based on the phrase element. Okay, and the question is, could we get these automated links without using a special element? And the answer is yes. We could parse everything. Okay, but when you parse everything, you may wind up with links that you don't really want. Okay, it could be you could be getting too many links. You could be getting links to items that have been depreciated. Okay, but using the same kind of phenomena, you get the automated links, and you could really generate real sales opportunity for your content, which I think for tech writers that's a new field. I mean, being sales creators and not just being a drag on productivity, I think is a real opportunity. So I just want to take stock of where we've gone so far and how much we've learned. Okay, and so first of all, we've learned that when we think about content, we want to look at the available topic types that we have. Okay, and machine industry topic type is a diamond in the, it's not even a diamond in the rough. It's wonderful. It can be used. Okay, there are other topic types out there too that may be available that are easy. Somebody else may have done the specialization already. They should be considered. Okay, we want to know, do we need a specialization? And if you guys notice, specialization is not a 4-letter word. Sometimes it's good. You don't want to overdo it, but sometimes it's good. It's not always hard. We gave examples of specializing from the definition list or specializing from the PH element. Really easy, very low-cost specializations. Okay, we talked a little bit about the importance of using semantically correct elements. Okay, the UI docs is a good example, but one of the big dangers and one of the big issues that information architecture can help avoid is kind of going from a Word or FrameMaker environment where things are bolded or italicized or use colors for different schemes to using semantically appropriate information. It's really gonna help your documents be robust and maintainable and be really effective when published. Okay, we gave troubleshooting content, because I think troubleshooting content is something example that we see in many, many projects. We talked a little bit about the balance between fast content creation and maintainability and cost. Okay, and I think we've kind of just touched the surface here, and there's a lot more to do, and that's our job at Sweet Solutions, is to be a resource for you guys. So I've hoped that we've been a good resource today, but we can be more of a resource as needed. So please feel free. My email is here. You can ask me questions, and of course, we actually have a few minutes now for questions if there are questions. And of course, here's more sweet contact information, and we're hoping that today's DITA information was good, that you like it, it was useful.